the people. So we are telling a story this morning of the enhanced quality of life, of the ease the ease in the motoring experience for citizens, for students, for teachers, definitely for parents. So we are here today out of a sense of duty and to record in the annals of history that we have delivered. Without further ado, I invite you to stand with us for the playing of the national anthem. Please remain standing for a word of prayer which will be delivered by Ray and John.
Let us bow. Father and God, we give you praise, we give you thanks, we give you honor, and we give you glory. We thank you for this is the day that you have made, and indeed we will rejoice and be glad in it. Father, as we have come together today for the official commissioning of the Smithfield to Dutchford Connector Roads, Father, Lord, we ask your divine blessings upon this ceremony this morning. Father, Lord, we pray that everything will be done in decency and in order. And in the end, all praise, honor, and glory will be unto your name. Father, bless these proceedings. In Jesus' name, amen.
You may have your seat. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I recognize in our presence the Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, the Honorable Farley Chavez Augustine, Secretary of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development, Assemblyman Trevor James, Assistant Secretary in the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development, Assemblyman Joel Sampson, other secretaries and assistant secretaries, Chief Administrator, Ms. Ethelyn John, Senior Staff of the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development, Managing Director, California Stucco Company Limited, Mr. Charles Cicheran, and his members of staff, members of the media, and other special invited guests. This morning, our first greetings will be delivered by Mr. Wayne Griffith of the California Stucco Company Limited. We invite him to the lectern at this time.
Honorable Chief Secretary, Mr. Farley Chavez Augustine, Honorable Secretary for the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development, Mr. Trevor James, Assistant Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my great pleasure to be here today. This is the first project of this nature for California Stucco and Company to deliver in Tobago. It is my great pleasure today as I stand proud, and it is a great privilege to give these opening remarks. We celebrate the opening of the completion of this construction project, this link road between Montgomery and Dutchford. Permit me just to indulge in a few words with regards to the development of this project. This project, as we see it, is key to alleviating mountain traffic congestion in and around Scarborough not just for the novel Tobago Carnival, which is scheduled to take place within the upcoming days, but in the long term, as the city continues to develop and expand. The project will make access to new residential and commercial lands possible, as well as improve productivity via reduced traffic buildup and congestion. From the moment we started preparations, it was imperative for us to make sure that local content was maximized, both from a perspective of labor and equipment. As such, many Tobago-based service providers were brought on board from day one, and they continue to perform and partner alongside us to deliver this key project. Outside of maybe 3 to 4 pieces of equipment, trucking materials, tools, and all have been sourced right here in Tobago to ensure that the benefits are retained on this island. The participation of local hardwares also, like for instance Singh Hardware, Tam Hardware, Richard Hardware, continue to show how committed we as a company are in utilizing the local based element of both labor and equipment. We at California Stucco, we consider this initiative not just as a venture, but as an opportunity to provide socio-economic boost through much needed employment and infrastructure development. We are committed to the people of Tobago in successfully handing over this project, and we look forward for all positive outcomes from this project. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of California Stucco, I am privileged to have worked alongside and to partner with the local contractors who have indeed, and we plan to forge a great alliance as we continue to move forward. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Griffith, and thank you to California Stucco Company for delivering in a timely manner. Our next speaker, many of us know him as the man with the plan for Scarborough, but for us at the division, he is eager-spirited, unperturbed by obstacles. Let us welcome to the lectern Assemblyman Trevor James, Secretary of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development.
Good morning all, good morning Tobago, good morning Trinidad. It is a privilege, and as always I like to start with giving thanks to the people from Scarborough, Mount Grace, who has by their vote afforded me the opportunity to serve, to give of my talents and my expertise and experience to the people of Tobago through the THA. Let me first say thanks to the Chief Secretary, Mr. Farley Chavez Augustine, the Chief Secretary of Tobago, for being here this morning and for allowing the division the honor of giving him something to open first, to cut the ribbon. Let me acknowledge Assistant Secretary Joel Jack, my able Joel Sampson, my word. My able assistant, I humbly apologize. Other secretaries, assistant secretaries, chief administrator, Mr. Lynn John, members of the media present and online, welcome to the ceremony to open what has become a much talked about road that connects Mount Mary to Dodgeford. When we envisioned the plan for the development of Scarborough, it was critical that we looked not only offshore but onshore to ensure that we are creating the necessary connections to take traffic in and out of the city, to alleviate the traffic jams that are building up now, as we envision a Tobago with an increased population and therefore increased vehicular traffic. The recent rains has demonstrated to Tobagonians that there is a great need for supporting infrastructure to what we now have. What we have seen across the north and the northeast is a terrain that requires constant maintenance, constant upgrade, and the division has stood up to the challenge. We have begun to do things that the division that has never seen. We applaud the staff for what they have done at Castara. You know, we are slowly but surely demonstrating to Tobago that we have the authority, we have the power, we have the skill, the expertise to move this island forward, and we are, as an administration, determined to make sure that PITIA is reinforced in the minds of all Tobagonians. And so, while we struggle with the weather, and we have more landslides and stuff coming down again, more roads being blocked again, we are sure that we must do both things, as maybe the chief would say, the wheat and the thorns must grow together. And while we create a maintenance plan for all infrastructure across Tobago, we have to simultaneously develop new access roads, develop new ability to connect the villages together. So the work we did here, the works we are doing at Argyle to Roxborough, what we are doing at Canaan is intended to ensure that when there is trauma, if there is trauma on the few roads that we have access roads that are able to stand up. We Tobagonians must come to realize that every new piece of infrastructure is infrastructure that should have been done many years ago. And we are determined, budget constraints, legal constraints, legislative constraints aside, we are determined to push forward, and we will push forward one step at a time. So I want to thank the contractor for being able to respond on short notice. This road was constructed in 3 weeks. The staff that they employed working night and day, we are thankful for that, and hopefully this experience will demonstrate to Tobago that things that can be done in short time ought not to take 6 and 7 months. Even at the divisional level, you know, we are now at Grugo Patch, and the development workers are there building the experience of construction which they have been lacking for a while. And this too is an example that even from design to completion, there are ways and systems to move construction quickly, and we will employ that not only as external contractors but in the division. So thanks to the contractor, and thanks to the people of Tobago, the supporting staff at the division, the PMO, Dr. Boris, who was here, going through the motions with the contractor to ensure this was a success and delivered on time for the carnival. And thank you all. And let me say that with your support, we can not only move mountains in these, but we can build roads in lowlands.
Thank you, Mr. James, for sharing a bit on this strategy and of your commitment to delivering works and quality works to the people of Tobago. Our next speaker needs no introduction, as they say. By stature, he's a man of the cloth. He's a young man that has gained the attention of Tobago. And at this time, he's a young man in leadership. Let us stand to our feet as we welcome to the lectern the Chief Secretary, the Honorable Farley Chavez Augustine.
Thank you very much. Please have a seat. Let me acknowledge Secretary for Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development, Assemblyman Trevor James, Assistant Secretary in the Division, Mr. Joel Sampson, all other secretaries and assistant secretaries who are present, Chief Administrator, Ms. Ethelyn John, and other senior staff members of the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development, Managing Director, and other senior members of California Stucco Company Limited, and of course those of you who are viewing via the members of the media who are present and other special invited guests, good morning. I am not a big fan of ribbon cuttings. I like projects to just be completed and we move. But I felt it was important this morning for us to have this simple exercise because it is a demonstration of what we can achieve even with the limitations that we have. The Secretary pointed out that this project occurred in 3 weeks, was started and completed in 3 weeks. Well, it's a little under 3 weeks, if we are honest. The project started, in fact, ground broke on the 7th of this month, and on the 26th of the month, 19 days later, we have 2 connector roads where roads did not exist before. 19 days later, we have 2 bridges where bridges were not in existence before. And if in 19 days, 9 days, we can build 2 connector roads, it means that we can do a lot more in the time that we have. And if we continue at this speed, in 4 years' time, Scarborough and the whole of Tobago will not be recognizable. And that's because the level of infrastructural development would have surpassed what we were able to achieve in 21 years prior. This road, well, these 2 connector roads and bridges are justified by the fact that prior to today, we had a community in Sangsas Hill that only had 1 entry and exit point out of their community. Similarly, we had a community in the Smithfield area, a business community in the Smithfield area. Same scenario, 1 entry and exit point, and that is on the Milford Road. Prior to today, it meant that your only access through Scarborough, downtown Scarborough, would have been along the Milford Road in front of the Esplanade. And if for one reason or another that road is impassable, it meant a backup of traffic on the highway. And it also meant that some communities would not be able to have entry and exit points. But this speaks to a larger challenge that we have as an island. And that is not ignoring our alternative routes, not ignoring the tracks and trails that were once used by donkey carts or beaten by feet, not ignoring those roads that we have left over the years to become overgrown in high bush and forest. And that's because Tobago faces a not so unique challenge as far as the Caribbean goes. With climate change, with increased ferocity in storms, with a lot more rainfall, we are coming to a place where we recognize that depending solely on a road infrastructure that exists sandwiched between the rainforest on one side and the sea on the other side, it means that we can wake up any morning and realize that 2, 3, or even 4 communities at the same time are marooned, are blocked in or blocked out, and we just cannot pass. And given the rainfalls we have had in recent times, and we look at the road infrastructure that we are seeing bridges, we are seeing roadways that any moment now can collapse. But in order for us to fix some of those issues we have with our existing road infrastructure, it will mean that we will have to have alternative routes for residents to get in and out. And I could tell you my own experience. In 2004, I experienced in the Speyside area having to either walk to Delaford or take a pirogue in rough seas to get through to Delaford, Kingsby. That's because the one road infrastructure that we have connecting Speyside to Delaford was impassable. The alternative through Hermitage was also impassable. In fact, at that time, that road was worse than it is now. And we just could not get in and out. I saw helicopters landing on the playing field to take pregnant women out so that they can have their delivery. I saw helicopters landing to bring water for residents. And while that was happening, we have an existing roadway through Merchiston to Kingsby that is just impassable. And that's because for some reason, somebody thought it wise to only have one access route in and out of the communities in Speyside and Charlottesville. And one of the things I vowed to myself then was, if ever I have an opportunity to do something about it, I will ensure that we open up alternative routes all across this island. We cannot exist where they're possible. One accident and the roadways become impassable. Much more floods and hurricanes. And so having these alternative routes, as we are opening today in the Scarborough area, will result in there being a parallel road infrastructure to the Milford Road. It means that you can come from Mount Mary up at Bishop's High School, and you can go all the way out to Wilson Road traffic light without ever having to cross on the Milford Road. That's in front of the Esplanade. This route I passed as a young man in the 90s attending Bishop's High School. It was our shortcut. We will come down from Mount Mary. We will come down by Rapid Response, and I could tell you that the division, I was advised, already tendered and awarded some contracts to fix that road, and the successful contractors will have to do the geotechnical studies to see what's happening with that terrible road at Mount Mary. That is resulting in the homes there and the business there at Rapid Response literally failing and falling apart before our eyes. So that road has to be fixed. But we will come down there. We will swing across sometimes by the preschool, which is just down from here. We will cross a big drain and do all impossible and get downtown without ever having to walk all the way down on that Milford Road. Because that was a shortcut. What is a shortcut is now a proper sanctioned and commissioned road for the residents of Scarborough, first of all, and the people of Tobago, secondly. But I want to point out a much larger issue, which is that these roads that we are doing right now, while they will greatly help with the festivities that will come this weekend, because it means that the church that has a large membership in Sangsters Hill will be able to exit Sangsters Hill while the profane, as they will view it, is happening on Milford Road. They will be able to exit from where they are located in Sangsters Hill. And the church neighboring here will also have entry and exit points. It also means that beyond the carnival, we have these opportunities for expansion of commercial activity and residential activity. Because we have these lands that were in many circumstances previously considered to be inaccessible, where owners of these lands thought, I don't know how I will begin to develop these lands because I don't have access. Immediately, the value points for the real estate in these areas have gone up. As of today, they have gone up exponentially. And that is an economic benefit. When you go up to Roxborough at the Lamy Road that extends around to the back of Roxborough Secondary, into Lower Argyle and into Roxborough Secondary, just over a year ago, there was a major accident at Pablo's. And again, I was stuck for more than 2 hours on that back road. That's because a truck ended up in mud and blocked the passageway on that alternative road going through the back there. And then when we look at the Canaan area, we have successfully mobilized to do that extension between Feeder Road and James Street and Milford Court and going across over on that other side. But we also have to reopen the tender and go again at getting that road that will connect from Cano Bay all the way down to Storbay Local Road. Because we see what the traffic is on a normal day going along that main central artery getting to Crown Point. And what we're trying to do in that area is to have parallel roads on the left and right of the center artery. So if it is you're going to the airport, from the time you get to Cano Bay, you can drive straight down on the left to the airport without ever having to use that central road. And if you're going all the way down to the Crown Point side, Pigeon Point side, the hope is that one day you'll be able to drive all the way down right of that central road, all the way down to the Pigeon Point without ever having to use that center road. And so there are benefits to these alternative roads. The one flaw I will give to the division is that I feel as though the division must communicate its vision much more forcefully. Because in the absence of communication, false assumptions are made and are peddled as if they are truths. You know, prior to these two connector roads, a contract was actually awarded beforehand, and I want you to understand this, a contract was awarded. At the last minute, the contractor pulled out of the contract. The contractor that was awarded pulled out of said contract. Pulled out of the contract. And when they pulled out, I sat in a room with 2 administrators, the secretary. We looked at the evaluation report that came to us, that was presented to us from the procurement and the project managers at the division. At that juncture, I did not even know who the contractors were, because the report they were giving to us just had the circumstances to be considered. The contractor pulled out. The advice we received, which I believe was sound advice, is that the procurement and project manager should be instructed to look at another contractor who was second in line and ask them to resubmit a proposal for these projects to see if they will return with a proposal that was closer in price to the internal estimates of the division. That was done, and so the division was in a position to execute this contract quickly a day after such communication with the contracting firm that was second in command. So it wasn't a case that the contractors who did this work was the first contractor to receive this contract. But I'll go further. Many of you are unaware that the THA paid $0 and 0 cents to have the roads that you are driving on today. The very first payment for these roads will happen in July 2023, 9 months after the delivery of this road. That's the very first payment. But the second set of payments will happen somewhere in April 2024. In other words, the contractor that had to do this work had to have their own money up front. And the contractor said today, despite using their own money up front to do this work, they used to be substantially cheaper in Trinidad than it is in Tobago. But they used all Tobago products to execute this work with their own monies. That's the nature of the contracts of these two connector roads that you are seeing there. And so sometimes when we don't communicate loud enough, then the nuisance minority becomes loudest. And sometimes, if we're not careful, they shape what is real with false perceptions. And so, as a team, we have to communicate more efficiently and effectively with the public about the projects that we do and how we are doing those projects. In fact, all of the road infrastructure that is now being developed are being developed using that same model. Because you will appreciate, you're coming to the end of the fiscal year 1. 2, we inherited a fiscal year that was already started and did not have any $300 million for any development anywhere, because they spent most of it on careless projects in a lead up to an election. And so, given the constraints we have with funding for development, we have to continuously use some of these alternative financing mechanisms in order to get projects completed. And so today, I wish to extend gratitude to all who were involved in getting these 2 connector roads completed. I wish to highlight that the division is actively looking at other alternatives as we speak. I know a team led by Dr. Boris is to visit, barring the rain, because we had heavy rainfall, a piece of road existing from Goldsboro, connecting with Miss Mills and going all the way across to Palatouvier. They already visited and mapped going from Mount St. George to Mason Hall to Castara, because those roads will become very important and will allow us at some juncture to close off some of the main arteries to do the kind of work that is necessary on some of those main arteries. Beyond the division, I wish to thank the principals at Scarborough RC School, Primary School, who also were supportive and accommodating for this project. And of course, the parents, the stakeholders, they too now have easier access and entry point in the flow of traffic from this area. And so we will commission the roads today. I happily drove myself here this morning so that I can drive myself across the 2 bridges. So I will be first in line to ensure that they are safe for commuters and that the contractors did in fact do a good job. And with that, thank you very much. And we press ahead with a robust and progressive agenda for the people of Tobago.
Thank you, Chief Secretary. Indeed, our oral tradition is alive. Thank you for exercising your excellent skill of oration. It's a teacher in you, you know. All right, so some takeaways. In 19 days, 2 connector roads were delivered during the rainy season and at the start of the fiscal year. On behalf of the division, Chief Secretary, we take your point about the need to communicate more effectively with the stakeholders. As we strive to form greater synergies internally, we will do better. And finally, the Tobago House of Assembly is exploring alternative means to get the job done, even in this challenging financial times. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the point, the ceremonial exercise, where we commission, by cutting a ribbon, the Smithfield to Dutch Fort connector roads. At this time, I invite the executives, the stakeholders, the contractors, all and sundry that are here today to join us bridgeside for the cutting of the ribbon. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to the members of the media, and thank you for our viewing audience online. Do enjoy the Carnival, the Tobago Carnival, and have a safe weekend.
arms for me. So young Mr. Wilson will help me cut the ribbon. Mr. Wilson represents the future of Tobago, and potentially the next chief secretary, potentially the next secretary for infrastructure, and he will assist in ably cutting this ribbon this morning. So are we ready? Thank you, Mr. Wilson. And so you can follow us. We'll drive from here. The truth is, we wanted to pave all the roads going into Sanctions Hill, but you know that road kind of bad. Not kind of bad, long time. But with the shortage of bitumen in the country and the difficulty in getting bitumen, it means that we have to do it in pieces. But more than that, the division has given a commitment that they will find a way, because roads bad all over the island, and I have some up by me that need fixing. They will find a way, whether they use bitumen or concrete. They will find something to patch all the holes and to fix as many of the roadways as we can, so that they will become safe. They will be safer for the people of Tobago. So we will do the drive past.
Can you just walk around the bridge a little bit first?
Walk around the bridge?
Yeah, this area, and then we jump in.
Oh, and by the way, not only did they do the bridge, they also did the sidewalk, they did the drainage. All of that happened in 19 days. In 19 days. And we even got Tiantec to move a pole in 19 days, which is an amazing feat for Tiantec. 2 hours. Where the young man? Mr. Wilson. And we got all the lines painted in 19 days. All the lines painted in 19 days, the bridge, the sidewalk, and I said the drainage in 19 days. So in 19 days we're able to have all of this.
Oh, it's made by the duck man.
So you're coming and deliver it? Yes, man. Thank you, man. Deliver it.
Chief, would you do interviews with us?
Right now?
After you do that? Briefly, 2 questions. Yes. At your doorstep we have on the cusp of the carnival.
Yeah, but you know I'm not a carnival person. I go in camp. So but you're asking the wrong person about carnival, because I go in camp.
And then
I will try.
Treasure so they comfortable. Barriers. And we need traffic management. Yeah, well, 2. But at least you could put a rail. You could put a yeah, to go down here. Yeah, down here. Yeah, but you could move. You could move it. What Dr. Boris is saying, that is the item. Yeah, you can lift out the rails. We need no, we got come to love.
play with the chairs and table and let it pick right. Yeah, that's a big start. Marlon pick up. Marlon pick up.
Going to the next one.
Hear me.
Well, I don't think the other people drive on.